Hey everybody, Omar here, the Knife Shark Guy, and I am back with another knife video for you today. And this is a follow-up video on probably right now at this point in time, my favorite knife of all time, the Chris Reeve Sabenzas. I say that now because I've been carrying this knife for about 6 weeks now, both of these on and off. I have not carried any other knife in my collection. One of my favorites, the Zero Tolerance 004562. I have not carried that since. And I also definitely have not carried the knife that this knife supposedly rivals, the Spyderco Swiss Bowie. I'm going to get to this, how this fits in a second. But yeah, the knife is basically a completely different experience overall. It has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with what it represents. It just really is a different using and carrying experience overall. And the knife has changed my life. In a very quick short story, I bought the Spyderco Swiss Bowie about 2 years ago. I was really interested to figure out how to get it to be smooth because it wasn't as smooth as it is now. And, you know, it kind of pissed me off that it wasn't that smooth. So I took the knife apart. And to make a long story short, I couldn't get the knife back together again. I just couldn't do it. Because the way Chris Reeve did it, Chris Reeve, the way Nick Shabazz did it in his video. He made it so easy to take it apart, but really it's not that simple. I'll tell you why. The scales on this knife, they're very thin up here, and then they get thicker over here, and then they begin to thin out again down here. And basically, yeah, it's 2 slabs titanium, like Nick Shabazz says, and then there's 6 screws. However, he forgot to mention that the screws actually screw into tubes, and these metal tubes, and the metal tubes are not interchangeable. If you don't put the right tube in the right hole, you're going to get a crappy experience, which is what happened to me, and I wound up taking it to a knife guy. I had to pay like, I don't know, like $8 or $9 to have him put it back together again, and I just felt real stupid. So for the next like 5 years, I didn't bother to take any knife apart at all, okay? Then I got the Chris Reeve Sabenza. And I started to take a really good look at this knife. And I'm not mechanically inclined at all, guys. I can't put anything together or take anything apart. I'm not a hands-on tools kind of guy. I work in an office. But I started to look at this knife very closely, and I said, this knife only has 3 screws. It doesn't have 6. It only has 3 screws, and the entire knife looks exactly the same all the way around. So how hard could it be to take it apart and put it back together again? So I did that. I took the one hex wrench they gave me. I took the knife apart, cleaned it, put it back together. As easy as that, my very first time putting the knife together, taking it apart, putting it together, probably took me all about maybe 11 minutes. And then the second time I did it, on the larger Sabenza, I'm going to say it took me about maybe 7 minutes to do that. It's just a joy. I mean, there's only 3 screws. You got the pivot, you got the stop pin, and then you have the backspacer. Now, if you guys are like me and you don't put knives together and take them apart a lot, this is the knife to do that to. Reason I say that is because Chris Reeve designed the knife that way. When you buy his knife, he wants you to maintain your knife. He wants you to sharpen your knife. He wants you to use your knife to its full potential. That's why you buy it. And if it gets dinged or it gets scratched or it gets whatever, so be it. The warranty that comes with this knife is like no other warranty you've ever seen or heard of. He's got what's called the spa treatment. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with Chris Reeve knives, the spa treatment is basically over time, through normal use, wear and tear, whatever, the knife will wear over time. You'll get dings, you'll get scratches, the blade won't be as sharp, you'll probably start to lose some of the gold anodization on it or whatever. You take it back to Chris Reeve, and when you get it back from Chris Reeve, dings and all, he brings you the knife back just like this, brand spanking new. You swear. I mean, I've had friends that have taken their knives to Chris Reeve, and they told me that it's taken them about 4 weeks to get the knife back, but a couple of them actually swear it's not the same knife, because it's a completely different knife. And as it turns out, they found a couple of things on there that made it look like it was that made them realize that it was the same knife. But overall, they were getting their knife in practically brand new condition. So if you guys I have to constantly say this, when you guys buy a Chris Reeve knife, and it's going to happen, don't worry about safe pointing it, because the knife was not meant to be safe pointed. The knife was meant to be used. So that alone changes your attitude about the knife right there. The price you're paying for this knife, yeah, the warranty alone makes that worth it, because Chris Reeve, make sure that when it leaves the factory, it's in the best condition possible, and that it's going to stay in the best condition possible under normal use, wear and tear forever. That's the dedication Chris Reeve has to making these knives. It's an overall completely different experience. Way different than any other knife I've ever experienced, in the sense that when I first got my 004-562, it was a little off-centered, so I actually had to take a couple of take two Torxes here and then adjust the pivots to get it to be as centered as you see it right here. Because it was a little bit off, it was jutting over to the left over there, and it kind of pissed me off. You know what, guys? When I got my Chris Reeve Sabenza, this is what it looked like, perfectly centered. I didn't have to worry about centering it. I didn't have to worry about doing anything. The reason that is because Chris Reeve, he makes the machines that makes his knives. That's how interesting this man is. He actually makes the machines. How crazy is that? That makes the knives. Now, if you take a look at the Chris Reeve Sabenza, I don't know if I mentioned it in my last video, but if you take a look at the way this knife is designed, you'll see that the titanium handles are completely flat inside. I don't know if you could see that, but the knife is completely flat all the way inside. I mean, he's got these knives flattened down and polished down to such a degree that when you open and close the knife, as close as that blade is to the two titanium slabs that are there, the knife is not rubbing up against the knife at all, and it is perfectly centered. Versus, say, a 004-562 or a Spyderco Swiss Bowie, which you get the centering by adjusting the two pivots. So in this case, well, actually, I think a better example would be the Spyderco Swiss Bowie. And the Spyderco Swiss Bowie, what they do is I believe, this is my opinion, that they red Loctite this down. This is a countersunk point. So you're not supposed to really loosen this, but you can loosen it with a little bit of force. But to loosen this is really hard. But once you loosen it, what they do is they tighten this thing down, they red Loctite it down, or blue Loctite it down, whatever, leaving you free to adjust this pivot for the centering. And because this is permanently in sunk that way, the only pivot that you have to adjust the centering is this pivot right here, and that's how it is on most knives. And then you get the knife as perfectly centered as it is right there. So the factory or Spyderco, to some degree, they leave that to you to fix. If it's not if it's not centered the way you like it, they give you a way for you to adjust that. And even then, it's not super perfect all the time. But with Chris Reeve, what he's done here is he's flattened down. Instead of making adjustments, he does it a different way by flattening down the inside titaniums to such a degree, and they're both exactly the same flattening down, that when you open and close the knife, as close as I'll say it again, as close as the blade is to the two slabs of titanium, it is not in any way rubbing against the knife. As you can see that. So that alone makes it a different breed of knife, because his manufacturing is completely different. He doesn't use standard machines to make his knives. He uses his own machines that he's built himself to make these knives. So that's the kind of dedication that we're talking about when we're talking about these knives. I mean, the obsessiveness of creating these things is just ridiculous. I mean, and the knife does get smoother, I mean, over time. It's so smooth I can actually flick it in my left hand, and I'm not even a lefty. I'm a righty. But it does get smooth over time. Now, the washer system in this is also something that I need to talk about. The washer system in this is completely different than on your standard, on your, say, a Spyderco Swiss Bowie, or any of other knife that you may have experienced. The washer system in here, on the front side of the knife, it's larger. The washer is larger, and on the back side, it's actually smaller. You can see the washer in there a little bit through the lock bar. But the washer itself is actually smaller to compensate for the lock bar. And that's how you get the smoothness. Plus, he designs, I mean, you open this thing up, you've never seen washers like this. It's got these holes in it, and they're all, like, crafted and whatever, I don't know. But they don't look anything like the washers in the Spyderco Swiss Bowie or in any other knife that I've ever owned. It's just a completely different construction from top to bottom. So that's what makes this knife a joy to own. Secondly, other than, you know, and because of the Chris Reeve knife, taking knives apart is no longer a problem for me. It's made me look at knives a different way. So owning these two guys have really changed a lot for me. I got new lanyards on the knife, as you can see. This one's an ACU Cameo. I bought this for about 20 bucks, and it's got the... it's got this, it looks like the backspacer, doesn't it? I'm not even sure if it is, but it kind of looks like it. But it has this brass ring around it. And on the larger Sabenza, I got a gray one with this beaded look to it. It matches the gold accents on the knife, the thumb stud and the lanyard pin there. So, yeah, it's the first time I've ever done that to a knife. I've never actually gotten something special for any of my knives, but, you know, because this knife made me feel the way it does when I carry it in my pocket, I figured I should, you know, number one, I don't even use lanyards at all, but I figured I might as well have something special on there. And I also want to say that I have not carried any other knife. I mean, again, I haven't carried any knife for, you know, 2 months other than these two on and off, and I can't stop carrying them. That's the thing. So for all you guys out there that do not own a Chris Reeve Sabenza, I've said it on my last video, I'm gonna say it again, you're gonna get one of these. You will get one. It's just a matter of time. Case in point, think about this for a minute. If you own one of these knives, okay, most of us, we paid maybe, what, $240, maybe $250 for this knife. And then for those of you guys that have the Spyderco Swiss Bowie, and you bought one of these when it was not discontinued, this knife cost about $270, $275, I think. Ask yourself this, were you thinking about price when you bought these knives? I mean, and these are really top quality knives. We love these knives. I love these knives. But I wasn't thinking about price when I bought these. I just bought them. Which is why your attitude about buying a Chris Reeve knife, that's going to change. It's the same thing, guys. It's the same thing as buying this. We didn't think about the money when we bought these, so why all of a sudden should we think about the money when we buy this? I'm not encouraging you to buy one. I'm just saying it's what we do. We're knife people. We buy knives, we buy them, we cherish them, and we don't even think about the money. I mean, I don't know where the money went for these, and I don't care. Same thing for this. Yeah, I spent more for these than for this, but I don't care about the money anymore. Right now, I'm enjoying these, and I care about the experience. I mean, that's all there is to it, right? That is all there is to it. A couple people on YouTube have said this to me, you know, Dr. Frankie. I don't really know him, but he seems like a, you know, I guess you could consider him my YouTube friend. I don't know. But he said it's just a matter of time, and I believe him. So for all you guys out there that don't own Chris Reeve Sabenzas, I'm telling you right now, if you bought one of these or something in this price range, you're going to buy one of these. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. The reason that I got mine at the time, and I waited 5 years to get mine, guys. 5 years. So the reason I got these at this time, is because I found a store where I live called the Epicurean Edge, and the guy's got a full freaking cabinet from front to back. I mean, literally from front to back, standing up in this fashion. Open like that. Back to back. I mean, all Chris Reeve Sabenzas, all Chris Reeve Numzons, all Chris Reeves M90s, whatever. And you see them, and it's like you walk into this place. It's like Disneyland. And if there's a store near you, any kind of a knife store near you that even has one of these or has a number of these, if you're lucky, like I was, and you see one, you get a chance to hold one, you get a chance to feel it in your hand, the chances of you walking out of that place without one is fairly slim. Yeah, I know we all have our finances, and we all have things we have to worry about. You know, we've got wives and kids and whatever. But eventually, if you're a knife collector, this is going to wind up in your collection somehow. I will guarantee it. So, don't worry about it. I mean, enjoy the knife, buy the knife. Don't worry about the money. Just get, you're going to get one eventually. Another thing I want to talk about is this is the least knife that you'd want to safe clean as well. I've been using this knife. This is also what I mean as well, is that it's changed my life in a way that I'm actually using these knives. I'm not just carrying them, but I'm using them every chance I get. When I use my Swiss Bowie, I used to be able to worry about, oh man, it's going to get dinged up, it's going to get scratched up. I can't stand not having it be perfect anymore. Not anymore, because I own two Chris Reeve Sabenza. I'm actually using this thing now. So there is a reason for me to buy a knife, especially if it changes your life in that way. It changes the way you think about knives. You're starting to use your knives. You're starting to see things differently. They're not just something that should stay in a package all wrapped up nice and neat. You know, and that's how I used to be. Every knife I got, safe cleaned. Every knife I got, well, then what the hell am I buying them for? I bought them to use. I might as well use them. So the Chris Reeve Sabenza is definitely that, and as we all know how pricey these things are. But with the spa treatment, hey, use them to your heart's content. You don't have to worry about that. That's taken care of for you. You hear a lot of people saying you can't flick your knife. You can flick these, by the way. And Chris Reeve does not frown on you flicking your knife. He frowns on wrist flicking your knife, because the only thing you have stopping this knife is that stop pin. There's nothing else in here. It's just a stop pin. So excessive wrist flicking, that will degrade over time. So you want to make sure that you're not wrist flicking it. But once you get to the smoothness of mine, that mine is, yeah, you can go ahead and finger flick it, or you can go ahead and flick it all you want, as long as you're not wrist flicking it. That's fine. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about my experience with the Chris Reeve Sabenzas. Like I said, it's been life-changing. I can't stop carrying them. So that alone just says more about the knife than I ever could. Again, I said in my last video, Chris Reeve is his own, he's his own brand. He's the only knife maker that I know who can actually say, yeah, I stand with these guys. He can say that. Yeah, I stand with these guys. But all you knife consumers have to realize I do my stuff very differently than the other guys. And if you want to come and experience me, this is what Chris Reeve says, if you want to come and experience me, check me out, buy me. You don't like me, you can always return me back, whatever. He gives you that option. The spa treatment, being able, he's the only knife maker I know who guarantees his knives for life. Not only does he guarantee them for life, but he will guarantee them and that they will stay like this forever, under normal, regular use, meaning not, abusing them in any way. So there you have it, the Chris Reeve Sabenza. It's a life changer for me. When you get yours, it will be a life changer for you. Once again, this is Omar, the Knife Shark Guy, signing off. Definitely sure that you will find this as your next piece of sharp art. This is Omar, the Knife Shark Guy, signing off. Once again, let's have another look at the blades. Again, if you guys want to see my original review on these, you can check that out on my channel. Please comment below, hit like and subscribe if you like on my channel. Please comment. Any comments you have about the Chris Reeve knives, if you have any questions about the Chris Reeves knives, if you're on the fence about getting a Chris Reeve knife, stay on the fence all you want. I don't really care. It makes no difference whether you're on the fence or not. This is going to wind up in your pocket one day. I guarantee it. I say that with all my heart. So, for all you knife people, this is Omar the Knife Shark Guy signing off again. And I know you'll find this in your pocket as your next piece of sharp art. This is Omar the Knife Shark Guy signing off once again. And I'll see you next time. And I promise I will have a new video of a new knife to review. It may not be what you expect, but we're going to be doing that as well, because that's actually another item that I wanted to get to as well. So this is Omar the Knife Shark Guy signing off. Once again, and I'll see you later in my next video.